Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in this week. We're going to do a slight deviation. We're going to have Thamir and his group of misfits tell us about their campaign. So, without further ado,
I was going to ask y'all, since some of you have watched the bumblings of a brand new GM who's never even played Dungeons and Dragons at all, and this was the first time GMing was in Shattered. I guess, what all did you see from my gameplay that might have affected 2.0?
I'd have to go back and look at it to give you an honest answer. It's been a hot minute. Um,
Were we working on 2.0 when you sent those to us, Conrad?
yes, we were
Okay.
very early stages because that was what,
Okay,
4 months ago, 6 months ago?
something like that.
Yeah, I've been running that campaign 6 to 8 months. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I will say one thing. As much as I love our game, you picked a hard one for your first time.
Yeah.
So props to you. It's like, learning how to play the piano with your toes before you move on to anything else.
I don't know if I would say it's that hard, but yeah, I take your point. Shattered was the first game my mother-in-law ever played, and she played a mage, or an arcanist specifically, and so it took her a long time to figure out how building spells work. And by a long time, I mean it took her until the very last session. But she figured it out during the very last session and proceeded to save everyone's asses. So that was a really phenomenal moment for both of us. Watch it click for her in her mind, and watch her start building spells and kicking ass and taking names and saving people. Yeah, it was an awesome moment. I don't know that I'll ever achieve that high again. That final session was just phenomenal. But yeah, so what do you feel like now that you guys have been playing for a hot minute? What do you feel like the systems are that need the most tinkering, or that you have to adjust the most while you're running the game?
Armor. Easily armor is the hardest thing for me to understand because it's never very well explained in 0.1 or 1.0.
Okay.
Every now and then there's someone has natural DR, but it's never defined. And then someone says, okay, you can wear armor, but it's never really defined how that really works. So for example, I did the Land Kraken in this last session, using basically I mixed the Watcher from the Lord of the Rings series, like the Watcher in the Dark,
Yep.
and the Land Kraken together. And what I figured was just because it's so hard to use armor, and that creature, the Land Kraken, had so much armor that if I introduced that creature into my game at all with any armor at all, it would be unkillable. And then through the game, I think we had a single roll. And remember, this is an 8-month campaign. This is pretty late in the game.
Okay.
Not a single one of my character's attacks broke 21. And so with 14 armor, that thing would have taken ages to kill.
Yep.
So I just think armor is probably one of the hardest things to understand and work with in Shattered.
Okay.
We definitely concur on that.
yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, the big thing right now for 2 is looking at literally everything. I'm wondering if there isn't just a better way to do literally everything. So we've just straight to the drawing board for everything. That's health, that's armor, that's the only thing that we've decided cannot change is the MDS. The MDS is staying. It's essential to the spirit of Shattered and Shattered gameplay.
And I just started recently, another one of my players started a campaign in regular Dungeons & Dragons.
Mhm.
It is so complex with figuring out roles, and it's I have no idea what's going on.
Are
But
you
the
guys playing
MDS
3.5 or 5?
I think it's 5.
Okay.
Interesting.
But then again, like I said, I've never played D&D before, so that might be why my confusion. The MDS is just infinitely simpler. So
I think you're the first person to ever say that, but
I'll take it.
I'll take it, yeah. Because I remember we played a little D&D after we finished our Shattered campaign with my mother-in-law, and she was like, Yeah, if you'd taken me from this to Shattered, I never would have figured it out. Shattered is much more complex.
Hmm.
And I think that's our general consensus. So generally speaking, Shattered is more complex than D&D. Unless you're spellcaster, then Shattered handily wins that game.
Okay, maybe that's why, because I'm like a sorcerer in D&D, and I might have picked poorly.
Part of the thing I always had trouble with casters in D&D was just like knowing, okay, like I have like my attack bonuses for swinging swords, but like what's my spell save DC versus my attack bonus? Why are they two different things? Like I hate it.
Oh, like attack spells versus save spells?
Yeah.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah. But I think the fact that Shattered, the MDS, basically gives like just sorry, I have like hiccups going on, has a like flat increase based on sort of a ranking system, like through the MDS table, makes it a lot easier in some ways for the DM, right? Because you can
Okay.
literally just look, okay, he's a 9 right now. He's rolling the 3d6 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can just be like, okay, well, to be fair, right? I want this to be a hard fight. I'm going to just throw up the enemy as a 10, right? Because I know this guy is going to go to this enemy character. This other guy, right? He's only like a 4 in melee. Well, it would really suck if I threw that 9 guy with the 4 guy in melee. So it's really easy to just be like, bam, okay, I changed it, like literally on the fly.
Yeah.
So for DMing, I really appreciate how easy it is to just throw characters together that match my players' characters.
Okay. I'm glad to hear that.
I think that's the first time I've heard that too, but I'll take it.
Well, and I always thought the same way. Like, it's if you understand like rating to rating, like it's pretty easy for a DM to adjust as opposed to like looking at challenge ratings and trying to like fiddle through all their skills and bonuses and penalties. Like, if you really just want to go raw numbers,
Yeah.
well, cool. Is there anything else you feel like you've had to fiddle with or has been easy for you? I guess since I didn't even think to ask what's been easy for you. My mind's just so set on change, I didn't even think to ask what should stay the same.
Yeah, so for staying the same, I don't think I've ever had issues in terms of lore, which is
Hope not.
probably like that's not systems based, which is probably why. But I like that the lore is rich enough and deep enough and has enough extraneous stuff in it that you can play with it. Right? It's not super rigid and it's not super esoteric out there. So you can actually kind of create a story within this world. I do
That was
appreciate that.
the greatest thing you could have ever said to me. That makes
And
me so happy.
that's what we aimed for, was enough plot threads in the world that just kind of dangling there.
Yes, rumors and hints and cultures and just making sure there's room to play. Oh,
Okay.
I love hearing that.
Yeah, so I know with my campaign, and thankfully none of my people are going to hear this. I told them that the Q&A was going on, but they're confused as to what that means. But the story I've kind of started is I started with the pre-campaign, right?
Yeah.
Just to like get them into the mode of like, this is how Shattered works. And from the pre-campaign, I basically took the idea of the box holding demons or souls and said, okay, where is this box? And I showed it up in the first like tie-in session. And so the entire campaign has been looking for this box because there was a demon in it. And so I was able to take even something from the pre-campaign and mix in, you know, all the pre-campaign characters, all the lore from the pre-campaign, and it's literally just a continuation from the pre-campaign, but like 50 years later or something like that.
Okay. That's
Um,
cool.
And that's just how I decided to run it. I'm sure other people have started completely different campaigns to
Oh,
be able to
absolutely.
continue that trend. I did make up, and I hope you don't hate me. I made up a city in the middle of Fenris, because I wanted a central like hub location
Okay.
that was not present in the map.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's your
Yeah,
game at
right.
the end of the day. Like, you do what
Yeah.
you got to do. We made sure that there was enough space for people to spread out, and we gave examples of some smaller cities or towns, really. But definitely wanted to make sure that people had room to play with it.
Obviously, Psy needs to change a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, the painful laughter.
I
Oh.
know.
Yes, but yes, it's up there on our list.
Yeah. So I made the mistake of telling one of my players like what I did during the pre-campaign or during y'all's campaign when we were alpha testing.
Oh
Of
my
how I
god.
was a shade who was psychic
Yep.
and how OP that was. And he was like, "Cool,
Yep.
I'm gonna do that too."
Yep.
Oh God.
Yeah, you and the ellipse were so wild. Honestly, all of you, because the ellipse and then the guy who had the necromancer. Yeah, you all just had some crazy shit going on. It was a good time.
Yeah. He has not abused it in quite the same way I did,
Yeah.
which is probably to his benefit. But I also knew from my own experience just how OP it was, so I have been punishing him severely for knowingly and openly and willingly going into the most OP setup he could.
Yeah.
It keeps it balanced. In terms of Shattered, one of the things we were having was the interplay between airships and large-scale campaigns. So I tried playtesting a airship versus a zombie horde
Uh-huh.
kind of thing. Um,
How'd that work out?
it went long. A lot of adaptation went into it.
Yeah, I bet.
I had to homebrew quite a bit.
Yep.
But because airships were like had the capability of a sigil, so my sidecaster having a sigil on an airship had massive ramifications on the battlefield, and I liked playing with that. And then because this is like a Helm's Deep situation, right? There's just hordes of orcs, just breaking upon the walls. It was interesting to have a mixed campaign where like my Psy guy and the airship and one of my like more ballistics based guys were all on the airship while everyone else was on the ground. So I was running 2 sessions at the same time in a large scale format.
Interesting.
Yeah, and that was hard for the system. Like I was pushing Shattered at that point to a degree I've never seen it happen in any other game. But then again, I've only played one, so
That is definitely pretty heavy for any system to manage, I think.
But that was when the Undead Tide literally just happened to show up in Lacorin at the same time. Based on the lore, like it was actually just appropriate according to the lore and the literal time that we did it for our campaign. So it was interesting to have the lore actually dictate the game a little bit in that sense.
Neat.
You were actually hoping for 2E to actually have some sort of like horde mechanics for that undead tide. At least I am.
I can I think I have the recording of that one. I can put it up on the YouTube channel. I should probably put a whole bunch of those up on the YouTube channel. I've been slacking so that you guys can watch it and be like, oh yeah, I see how he naturally had to change this or that in order to
That
make
would
it
be
work
really
for a
cool.
horde campaign.
That'd be really helpful.
Yeah. So I'll go ahead and do that probably either tonight, maybe, while because it just takes so long to upload YouTube videos.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
So,
How did you handle the damage scaling between like people on the ground versus the stuff airships throw in?
Um, so I basically, because I'm using Astral, right?
Oh
Um,
yeah.
which Astral's Astral. I helped you guys a little bit. Let me see if I can find it. Here it is. Because Astral's what's it called? The when you rank who goes in order.
Oh, your
Initiative.
initiative. Yeah.
It doesn't work. So let's see. I can just put it here. So I did the code. I redid the code. There was a missing parenthesis.
oops.
So that should fix the template.
Nice.
Cool. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Sadly, they're not developing the platform anymore.
Yep.
Oh, they're not. Okay.
Why not?
Yeah. It got too big and some life stuff came up, and so the developer basically abandoned it.
Mm.
No.
So we were going to look into
Jeez.
everybody else.
Yep. So we've got to figure out where we're going to take that.
Okay.
Well,
Probably back to Roll20, but
We've also got Foundry, and we've also got Fantasy Grounds, things like that.
I think basically Drive Through RPG is running it at this point, and they're just letting it be what it is.
Yeah.
that's the distributor of the book, right?
Yeah, one of them.
Yeah.
Oh, you asked for about damage scaling. The way I homebrewed it was the airship was basically like fighting one of the sprites on Astral. And I had like 20 sprites of shamblers and other characters in there to basically simulate like this icon represents 1,000 zombies or something like that.
Okay.
And so it was basically like taking a veteran versus the airship as if the airship was just another character. So obviously the airship rules are inflated, right, to accommodate like a cannon is much bigger than your shotgun, right? But you have that difference in scale between the shotgun and the damage dealing of the cannon. So you just take that scale and apply it to that sprite that represents 1,000. So that's kind of how I tried to get around that. And that way my guys on the ground were all fighting just one sprite, whereas the airship was fighting the other 19.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, that's wild to be juggling both of those at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's probably why it went long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of moving parts.
That was probably one of the most complex games we've done in a bit. And it made even worse when some of my characters jumped off the airship. I'm like, oh no.
Oh my god. That is GM to GM. That is a colossal undertaking that you took, and I hope your players loved it and they thanked you for it because the amount of work you were putting in is extreme.
Mm-hmm.
No. But yeah, it was interesting to try and play that off. I think the sigil helped a lot because it was basically just a flat multiplier for our psychic who was already OP as heck. So I may have leaned on that a lot.
Hmm.
Sometimes it's beneficial to have an OP character.
Sometimes.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I'm not a rules stickler, I suppose. So there's some benefit
Me
to
neither.
having some of the systems undefined in some ways.
Okay.
Because I had the ability to say, oh, my bumbling idiot that's on my campaign who thinks himself the purifier of the world because he was, brainwashed by a cult, he dropped a canister containing a fire demon. He just straight up dropped it in the middle of the undead horde.
Oh, neat.
And it broke, so that was convenient. So the undead horde was fighting a fire demon, and I just like, what does this even look like? Like, I'm not going to make any rolls. It wipes out half the town too.
Nice.
Love it.
So,
Love it.
Lacorin is missing half the city.
Oh, Jesus.
That changed geopolitics.
No
Yes.
shit.
Yeah, it did.
And the undead tide also lost most of its force. So that's going to change geopolitics for the rest of the year. And
Yeah,
I
that's wild.
started explaining the story about how this one action is going to affect the entirety of the history of this continent for like a decade to come. And they're like, "Oh crap, we made a mistake." So that was hilarious.
Jesus, half of Lokeren.
That's no small feat, given that
That's
it's under a
not.
mountain. Holy shit.
I may have made the guy overpowered to start with, but
You don't say.
I mean, realistically, the civilian areas aren't really that well defended.
my understanding was it was like elves living in trees. That's what my understanding of it was.
It's
a bit more
probably one
urbane
of the
than that.
nicer areas of the world.
Yeah.
Living in trees. Neroth?
Is Neroth different than Lacorin? I thought Neroth was a city in Lacorin.
No?
Oh,
You're good.
my bad.
You
No.
still wiped out half of something, and it's a big deal.
Yeah, so Neroth is the city northmost on the map, up in the Irminsul Woods, basically where the largest trees on the continent are, and was really founded by 3 lodges that were trying to basically get rich off, they're really useful large ass trees in their wood. Lokran is that city, approximately central of the continent, that's known for the cistern, which is the largest source of pure water in the continent. So when you said half of Lokran, all I can think is a cistern that is half undefended.
Okay. Well, oops. Now I know.
Yeah.
I thought it was just the forest, so it might have been Neroth.
Yes. So yeah, Neroth, people do live in the trees, but not in like an elfin, look how cool it is to live in these trees way, but more like, why build houses when we can just cut into the trunks of these massive trees and one trunk will, house 3 separate families? Like,
We'll just build houses out of the tree stumps and call it a day.
exactly. And call it a
Yeah.
day. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
And then,
I did
yeah.
have them as a very almost hippie elf kind of thing. I had, according to the lore, it said, the mushroom people.
Lorvana.
Yes, Florvana. I had them being a significant size of population as well.
I could see an argument for that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
We hired one of the Florvana as our ship's medic,
There you go.
and he
Sounds.
all the shrooms references. Yes,
All the shrooms references.
so they had a lot of fun with that.
Yep. They are ripe for those kind of jokes.
It is interesting to have enough races available to play around with too.
How do you feel about all the races? Do they all feel unique in their own ways? Obviously, there are certain tropes that you can't escape, but like, do they at least feel fresh enough to you?
So the
Ellipse, Flarvana, Wretched, Vampires.
some of them are a little harder to play with. One of my guys, for example, like the drones.
Yep.
He's having an incredibly hard time trying to get into the headspace of a drone.
Yeah.
So are we.
That's.
Um,
Have
yeah.
you told him like the backstory? Have you let him like look into that?
he has the access to the book, So
Well, I know he has access to the book, but maybe he hasn't dug through like the GM sections. Maybe he doesn't fully understand. I was just curious.
I don't think he's spent a whole lot of time reading the book himself.
Okay.
Honestly, I think only one of my people has actually bothered to look into the book enough to know anything about the lore, which is sad, but
Yeah. Well, sad.
I'm explaining it to them as we go.
Yeah.
And that happens to be a vampire, which I'm playing into heavily, that he actually has read the lore by making it into all of these vampire areas. Like Hell is the next place we're going,
Uh-huh.
and all the covens that are associated with that. And I've been using that player to provide lore, so it's not all just coming from me.
That's cool.
Yeah, that is neat.
For the creatures, what was the
What is his largest hang up with being a drone?
drones don't speak Spanish.
Yeah.
So there's the fact that a drone
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't necessarily be carnally minded.
Yeah.
And so it's very hard for even any human, like not just him, but any human to understand what might motivate a computer. Right? If your computer could talk to you, what would it want? Feed me more electrons. Okay. Keep me cool. That makes no
Well,
sense.
I mean, just remember, it's beyond that, right? This is advanced intellect. It's I mean, at one point they were people. They've just made that transition from organic to synthetic, and obviously that's been hundreds, if not thousands, of years. So it's been time to adjust to this new way of living. But yeah, there's definitely going to be a very alien mindset, and that's actually something we struggled with when we were originally trying to develop their backstory. The original backstory was nothing like what it is now.
Oh, yeah.
And I like this. We all like this approach much better, but it's also been giving us difficulties as we try to look into potential new major plot hooks to reveal in the next edition as we move the timetable forward. Several decades. So yeah, I mean, I think we can all relate to that. It's really hard to try and create an honest alien perspective.
Right.
Yeah.
So I can relate,
Mhm.
and I'm one of the people who's heavily invested in the lore here, along with Tex and Lost. I'd say it's kind of it's
Aren't
definitely
we?
Tex's bread and butter, and
Aren't
I'm
we all
definitely
kind of heavily invested in the lore?
yeah, you know what I mean though. Like we have Cody,
Um.
we have Lith, and
Oh
they really
well,
like the mechanical sides of things.
they are. Yeah,
But
they do.
yeah, we all definitely contribute to everything. We all definitely have our preferences.
Well, and I mean, we're looking at we gave the drone home a name, but we really didn't do much else in 1E. So now we're trying to fill that gap, and it's just like, okay, what does a drone city look like? And it can't be from the Matrix.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do drones need bodies in Dronus? Right.
It's like,
Something like that.
We've had that conversation.
mhm. And
Like it's
when certain things in the world happen, you know, when other nations react, what are the drones doing?
mhm.
What motivates them in a situation that creates very human peril, but might not communicate the same way to a drone? It's
Yeah.
been challenging.
And I think that is an area where it does take a lot of work on the GM's part, just because it's nearly impossible
And the
to.
player's part for sure. Like that's a team struggle for you guys.
Right. But to create a individual culture for each of these places, right? So you have Pulse, where just about everyone's welcome, um, as slaves. Yay.
Yeah, I was gonna say air quotes welcome.
And then you go across the pond to Lannis, and it's like nobody's welcome except the slaves. And it's like,
I mean, Lannis is more. It's almost like a caste system if you think about it. Like You better be good at something. You better be
Yeah.
good at one thing, like really well. Because if you're not, nobody gives a shit. Like nobody cares. You better
And they
be.
will kick you out for sure because they need to maintain their purity to some degree as well.
Yeah, so there's definitely this like constant political struggle, like within the various like guilds, and then also within like the city as a collective. Like, yeah, there's so much room for political intrigue. Atlantis is a political nightmare. I could
I
talk about it for days
I
straight,
did not have a
honestly.
single combat in Lannis. It was
That
all
seems
politics.
really appropriate. Yeah.
That seems incredibly appropriate. Yeah, good luck starting a fight in Lannis. I hope you like paperwork. Like,
Oh, you mean a debate, right?
Yeah, it was diplomacy by other means. So
the iron diplomacy, if you will.
I think we've had the most fun out in the wastes, away from the cities, like fighting creatures and stuff like that. I think that's where my group has had the most fun.
Okay.
Um,
Being monster hunters.
yeah, I mean, one of them that's literally like his backstory is he hunts monsters. That's his thing.
Is he from Lannis?
He's straight up like, what's that game, The Monster Hunter?
Yeah,
Like,
monster hunter.
yeah, that was his like inspiration.
Okay.
So,
Oh, I just meant like, where's his character from? Did he make a character from Lannis, like a monster
he
hunter legion?
is a Nerothian vampire,
Norothy
uncommon.
vampire. Okay. Uncoven. Okay, dope. Why did
Um,
he choose Uncoven? Did he say?
well, he said that he was like disillusioned from all the infighting he saw in Neroth of all the different covens and all their different vying for position, and he was tired of it, and so he left.
Oh, I love that.
It's awesome, actually.
That's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, and I have used him. I created this just to be in line with the ultimate story goal that I was going with, which I told Conrad early on was kind of going into the cult of Taek. I'm not using Taek himself, right?
Mhm.
But, and again, I'm glad none of my people are here because I'm, spoiler alert. I thought, okay, so there's the results of the apocalypse, and all these demons came through.
Mhm.
Well, normally when you have a conceptualization of a demon, it's like it's a big giant thing that's very destructive, and it goes on a like childlike mayhem spree. What if there was a really weak demon, and it knew it couldn't survive in this world unless it was clever? And so I've been playing with the mastermind being a more clever, creative necromancer demon, and its way of continuing to survive is by stitching living and unliving together. He's literally the source of the undead tide, right? He creates the shamblers, and so um, the undead are the ones that died, right? The rejects, the failures, the deficient ones. But there's a super like half undead, like a homunculus, that like a low quality one will give a vampire, if it feeds on it, like invincibility for a time. And so I literally just like in the middle of combat, uh, um, GM fiated that a unseen sniper got an anti trigger finger during combat, and literally just like straight through the heart of my vampire, like instant kill. He's dead. My player was pissed. Um, but I had already set up this homunculus idea of like an undead stitched to the living, and so when he was basically force fed the blood of this homunculus, it actually gave him invulnerability, even though he had no heart. And so, like, playing with that kind of idea of there's this more sinister means and purpose to the undead than just it happens. And it's somewhat related to the cult of Taek, right? Because he needs living people to come so he can feed on them, right? He needs their life force in order to maintain himself. But at the same time, he's still trying to stitch the living and the not living together to create like the ideal unkillable soldier. Which I may or may not have pulled out of Brotherhood, but
It doesn't matter where you pull it from.
Yeah, man.
Sounds
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, I was just thinking about being in that player's position and being like, what the fuck? I'm dead? I'm not dead? What do you? I'm not dead? That was probably a really cool moment for him
yeah,
after he got over the initial shock of being annihilated.
yep. And so I've also even created an economy for this demon, right? He's almost like, yes, he operates in the shadows, and normally you would think, oh, this guy's evil. But this demon is actually producing something that's almost inherent in the 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 fabric of Fenris now, right? People don't know it,
Yeah.
but they live around this demon and they almost rely on him to survive, in the sense that he creates this new entity which the vampires use and they pay very high sums of money, right? Only the elites of the vampires can afford this homunculus to feed on. And then the other people have the opportunity to come to this demon for the opportunity for like a form of eternal life. Whereas those who are about to die, right, and they know they're going to die and they can't afford to live, they can actually be sponsored to come to this demon. Yes, they turn into a shambler, but they were going to die anyways. So this is almost a means of near, not entirely, but near humane dealing with the fact that so many people die in Fenris, right? Is it gives them almost a second chance. Yes, it may be as a shambler, but they have this opportunity to join a community, and it gives so much more life to the shambler, even beyond just being a brain dead zombie. Like it actually gives them a purpose, community. It gives them a way of continuance in some sense, hoping to bring humanity back to the monsters that you would normally interact with, and are like, oh, it's just a zombie, kill it, you know. Well, maybe you shouldn't, you know. Where do these shamblers come from if not from friends and family? And so, trying to prey on my my players' minds a little bit in that sense, get them to think a little bit deeper than just, oh, kill it, which will be a moral conundrum.
Adds
When
another layer to everything, yeah.
it'll be a moral conundrum for the team when I'm like, hey, this demon actually provides a good service.
Suddenly you're just like, okay, whose siblings, whose parents, whose children have you been slaughtering on your way here through the tide?
And one of my characters unwittingly and kind of was coerced to, but more of like a I knew what he would do. I put a group of prisoners in a cell, and one of his like sticks is that he must release the prisoners. Like he hates prisoners, so he must release prisoners. Well, one of the prisoners wasn't undead, So he released an undead from captivity, and that undead proceeded to go and kill the rest of the town. And I was like, "Look what you've done! How dare you!"
I love consequences.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I've been trying to make it so that it's like the world is not black and white. The world is very much gray with shades of dark gray and light gray.
What a coincidence. Their shades are gray too. The
Stop.
shades. I mean.
Stop it.
I knew someone was gonna make a joke like that. I knew it.
Wow. Yes, the shades. I actually enjoy the shades. I think they're probably the most like interesting, most fleshed out new creation. Like vampires. Okay, we've seen a million types of vampire. Um, the wretched are kind of like the mutants from Fallout. Um, the fungi people's kind of new, but I feel like we've seen them in other franchises as well. But the shades, I don't know that I've ever seen a shade like
Hey, here's a guy who hasn't played
necessarily.
D&D.
Yeah.
Oh well,
No, D&D has their own infamous brand of dark elves called the Drow, and physically, at least, they're like scene for scene, word for word, the physical descriptions we have for the Shade, which I didn't realize at the time when I joined the team, and someone pointed it out to me after we had published the book, and I was like, oh.
Yep.
Um,
I had never encountered the drow up to that point when I wrote them, so I had no idea.
Yeah. So, yeah, that was the thing. So there are a lot of similarities. There's enough differences that I think they still stand apart. But yeah, most people who have played any sort of tabletop in the past have some passing awareness of the Drow, and I think a lot of people look at that and they go, "Cool, Dark Elves / Drow. I'm going to play that." So,
oh well, okay. You've managed to find one person that has no idea what the lore of D&D is. So. All right, I was unaware of that.
I like to think they're still cooler than the drow, though. So thank you. I'll take it.
The way they do telepathy, right? The fact that they don't speak, they're vestigial mouths in that sense. I think that plays a great opportunity for roleplay.
so Nakshala, right? Their main thing, they're largely a thematic thing. It's this additional mutation that exists among the shades. But if you're looking for use cases, story wise or otherwise, I would say the best place to look is the Rekindled, right? They used to be dead. Um, and so there's a natural gravitation for the Rekindled to find or seek out Nakshala and ask for their help, to try and figure out who they were, what their purpose is, why they came back, right? All those sorts of meaningful life and spiritual questions.
All right, so I had a incident recently where a Rekindled is sort of interacting with a witch. Actually, it's the naked lady from the pre-campaign. I turned her into a witch of sorts.
Okay.
Um,
That
and
tracks.
because she does just like magic poof out of there, so it fits.
Mm-hmm.
But I gave her basically a rekindled, like a young rekindled, one that hasn't quite developed into a functioning member of society.
Okay.
She's adopted this rekindled in order to sort of take care of it as it comes into the new world. And so when she died, the rekindled is just like, now what?
Yeah.
So it works perfectly that this rekindled, the first time we meet it, is literally just like hovering over the shade. Like, what are you?
Okay.
And the fact that he wasn't Nakshala, that would have been a perfect opportunity. Because as it is, he can't talk to the rekindled, right? Because the rekindled and the shade, right? Because the shade's not Nakshala, they can't talk. So they're sitting there like confused, staring at each other like, what's going on? That might have been a perfect moment. or it has been a perfect moment because he is not Nakshala. My team's coming in actually,
Oh, hell yes.
Cool.
so they should be dropping in here in a second.
That's some good feedback here. Somebody get ready to take some notes.
If I did it right, I'm not.
So easiest way to do it is you can right click on the Q&A voice channel and just click on the button for invite people and then send it to your buddies.
Yeah, I said create a link and then I dropped it in their Discord, so we'll see if they.
That's the Squidward, Ren, and Cog 94.
Yeah, Cog 94 is one of them. Ren, howdy Ren.
Hi there.
Howdy.
So Ren, your character in my campaign, you went with a sort of a semi-mutated, oversized human. Been playing in the radiation too much, and
Love
you
it.
were in a cult, right?
Yeah.
A fire cult.
Yes. A fire cult of just one deranged priest that raised him in a bunker.
Love it.
So he has all sorts of weird ideas, like vampires eat dogs.
Yeah, little Fallout brainwashing going on.
Yeah, completely. And it's a shock for him, like, what do you mean robots are smart? They don't have brains.
Perfect.
Squidward is our shade psychic.
Awesome.
I'm the stealth psychic.
Classic.
I love it.
Is that Cog?
Hello. Yes.
Howdy.
Our drone.
I am Fi.
Yes. Invest in Ficoin.
Yes.
Invest in Ficoin.
It is
Okay.
the move to win in this game.
So we're the developers of Shattered, Conrad, and you also have Lost, Zip, and Tex. A couple of our teammates aren't here tonight for life reasons. But yeah, we'd love to hear your guys' feedback on how your game is going, things you love, things you think could use adjustments.
Well, I think the campaign's been great and like it's been going well, and I think that like the interface and just I guess how you guys build the world, it's really coherent. So I like that. Perhaps, I mean, this is the very first time, or like playing Shattered. It's the very first time I ever tried anything like this, like D&D style, or I know,
Yeah.
technically different, but
Yeah.
I would say that it was a bit overwhelming at first, but once I got in the hang of it, yes, reading everything like about the characters or the world, it was much clearer. Maybe something I would like to say is that it felt a bit weird when I was trying to look for like, okay, say I'm gonna buy some gear, and there's like you have a section on weapons and just like weapons and tools or shields, things like that, right? But I would say it felt a bit odd that maybe there wasn't like maybe like a list of things. I would just see like the featured weapons or the featured elements that you could buy or acquire. They would be very either very expensive, like not something that you would be looking for like at the beginning of the game,
Mm-hmm.
or very like situation specific. Like you would have like specific debuffs or buffs that you maybe are not even considering. So it was just hard for me to like start and say like, okay, wait, so like maybe like a regular broadsword or like a regular, like, I don't know, a regular set of like beginner weapons or something. It was a bit hard to understand because I don't know. I guess when we started with like 500 notes each, I believe. And
Okay.
Normal progression, yeah.
right? And so you start, but then you see this list of items, and there are items in the range of like 4,000 notes already. And even if it's like a shield or something, like I think my character's more like I'm trying to play him like a strong tank, melee, and a bit of a shield guy. But it was just hard to pick like right off the bat like a shield, because I felt like I think there's the sorry, I forget the name, but it was like a very expensive shield that can cast a ward or things like that. But it's just, and there weren't many other options other than like that seemed just an easy pick. Like, okay, I'm gonna go to this one, and then eventually, like, I'll save up to 1,000 notes, and then I'll buy this one, and then I'll save to 2,000 notes, and then I'll get this one. Maybe if it was like an easier progression to see like that, or maybe maybe all be around the same price, but then you start working really with the trade-offs is something that I was looking more like I was looking something more like that when I started, but just I mean, I don't mean to like bash on anything. No, I'm just
definitely.
saying.
You're good.
Okay, thanks. I'm just really trying to emphasize the point that part was a bit confusing to me.
Okay.
Like whenever we talk about like, okay, let's buy stuff, or we just hit the nearby town, so let's go to the shop or something. I just feel like a bit like, well, I don't really know where to go because I just have the very pricey option, or maybe like something that I don't feel clicks with anything of what I'm doing, or like trying to
Okay.
go for. So I don't know if maybe it's just like a question of variety, or if it's
Yeah.
just more like standardizing all the options.
Yeah. No, that's something we've heard before. Is it feels kind of like our item shops are all over the place, and part of that was because we kind of had mentally invested so much into characters crafting that we just assumed that we're like, oh, if they need something else, they'll figure it out. That's obviously not fair, especially to newer players, like to just expect them to figure it out. So it's something we're gonna try and fix in the future.
All right. Yeah. No, thank you for listening to me.
Yeah,
Absolutely. No, that's we love doing this.
And for context, we are currently developing second edition, so like all of these sorts of questions are helping us form how we change things going forward.
Yeah, our current thought process for this, for what we have down right now, shouldn't be an issue. It should be very easy to get beginner and intermediate weapons without much problem.
And other equipment.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, like much easier, especially if you're trying to do like quick characters. I know that was kind of a problem that we.
Well, and also things like, we definitely did not like offer any instruction on like, hey, these are like items we made up. Use the crafting system to make your own. Like even though that is really difficult for a new player to jump into right away, we didn't even tell people to like necessarily go do that right off the bat. So looking at a lot of ways that we can provide better guidance along the process so that when you get to a chapter and you're not sure what's in here, we can give you breadcrumbs to help you like through it a little bit more easily.
Yeah, the crafting system was good though. I really I like that option, and I used it. I believe it was to craft. I think it was more like prosthetics that I used it for, but I think the part was clear, and I think it's a good element of the game, especially for more experienced players, rather than just getting like the preset or something. They could just start messing with it. I like that. So that part was I guess the redeeming part for me when I started. It took a bit of like reading and trying to understand what we're doing, but yeah, I appreciated that though. So maybe more things in the store, but yes, the crafting system is great.
Yeah, I like the idea of customizing weapons. I think some weapon could use a lot of pimping, like in my case, the flamethrower. I think it has potential to be more of a melee weapon than of a range weapon.
Okay.
Yeah, Sinnoh here is our Pyromaniac guy for our campaign. We're usually like most of the things in the campaign, I think have happened because he ends up just setting a fire somewhere or causing trouble one way or another. So that has led to a lot of great interactions with.
Yeah. Archade has the ability to put image on Sinohe's mind, and there is lots of flammable things.
That is probably one of the cooler interactions we have in our campaign, is that the Shade, who can just emanate a thought into another person's mind, and then a brainwashed, like, cultist. So of course he's going to listen to any thought that pops into his head.
And I love chaos. So his quote unquote God is telling Sinue thoughts of what to do. One thing I figured out that you can do with Biomods is, like, when I first started out playing the game, it's potentially a little too punishing that you can lose a limb if you fail too much. Like, I started this campaign missing a right leg at the onset of session number 1 because I failed too many times trying to get gills until I got them. And I realized that it's possible to start the game as the Black Knight from Monty Python. It's technically
It's just a
possible.
scratch.
So I think that punishment could be slightly alleviated just so you don't have anyone start out as the Black Knight.
Yes, that's something we've discussed and looked at.
Yeah, it's good to start off without limbs. It builds character.
Yeah.
Really.
Have to overcome greater odds.
Yeah.
What's an adventure without a little struggle, right?
Yeah, and if you have gills, who needs legs?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as a heads up to my guys, the last players pack.
Have there been any highlights in regards to like the setting, places you've enjoyed being, or events that have really captured your fancy?
Well, aside from the hilarious mishap of gaining a huge bag of gold at the beginning of the game, and then coming to realize, how much that was worth. It was a nice thing that we like could use that to end up buying like an airship and then having missions themed with that. Like, we're just navigating through the air, Final Fantasy style, and
That's awesome.
we have all
So
sorts
notes
of.
have an inflation problem.
What else? Well, we also are fighting a big kraken-looking beast last time, which name I forget, but I mean, it's great that kind of beast, it was really strong too, existed in this world. I do like that these pre-built beasts per se. It's like, or these monsters that you have in mind are gonna challenge the players. So
The
I think.
Sky Whale's art was beautiful.
Oh yes. Yeah, I forgot about the sky whale. Yeah, so those presets of like monsters or challenges are great, I think, for the dungeon masters, or just for like something to look forward to, and comparing yourself is like, am I ready for that kind of challenge? Yes or no,
It's a neat observation. That's awesome. Almost like taking a contract to go kill something and being like, do I think I can take that one on? Right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think that gives it a lot of perspective in like comparing your game to how it should be going, but maybe how it's not, because who knows? Maybe it's been a lot of unfortunate events happening one after another. But it's just great.
Well, thanks guys for hopping in and answering a few questions, and we always love getting feedback. So anything you guys want to send our way, by all means, just drop it in chat. We'd love to hear it.
All right. Thank
Good
you.
or bad, you can rip us a new one if you want to. We want all of it.
And thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Invest in Ficoin.